Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Oh, do we have a day ahead of us? Thank you, Senator Daines. Wow. Now I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I think. We'll get to that in a little bit on RFK, but let's start with the schedule. Yay, it's out. All the things that were leaked ended up being true. That's a rarity. So the internet got it right on that one. Or we've sussed out which ones we should pay attention to. First thing I'd like to complain about, because I want to get the complaints off the board.
Oh, you got
first.
complaint boards already. Okay,
Stop
let's go.
giving us bye weeks in December. It's the third year in a row with this.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody should have a bye week in December. Enough already with this. Enough with this.
Brutal.
So they get this again, and all right. All right.
Fine.
Fine, whatever is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. Early takeaway here. 3 of first 4 away from home, 4 of first 6 away from home.
Yep.
One of them's a long trip. One's a Monday night football game against a contender, Cincinnati. One's right up the road, Baltimore, but that's a really good team. So we're going to get tested here very early because no matter what you think of these teams, Cincinnati almost was a playoff team without Burrow. Cleveland home was a playoff team. Baltimore was a playoff team. Tampa was a playoff team. Majority of those I just named are road games. Things will be different, obviously, and we'll find out, because things change very fluidly in the NFL.
Yeah.
But that screams not easy.
Yep.
First 6 weeks of the season screams not easy to me.
Correct.
So let's see how we get through all that. Plus, I'm hoping Jaden changed the trajectory with the Giants because we always lose to them. Now that we have this quarterback here, maybe we'll stop losing to what I think is an inferior opponent because that's happened a number of times.
Well, remember, it doesn't matter who starts either. It's Dimes or your boy Cutlets over there.
Or Tyrod.
Or Ty. Yes,
we
right.
lost
Tyrod
all 3 of them.
Too. That's right.
Yeah, Cutlets beat us here.
Here.
That one's inexcusable. That was an inexcusable one. Cutlets beat us here. All right, so we open at Tampa. It's going to be a 4:25 window start. How about that? So
that's
we
a little
got
bit of a shock there.
Yeah, on the East Coast, I was a little surprised by that. So we get the 4:25 window to start September 8th at Tampa Bay. Tampa was a playoff team a year ago. Baker did re-sign. Yeah. Majority of their team is back. Some changes on defense. I don't really want to go too heavy into the matchups at this point, but it is the first one. And I will say, for first matchups, we didn't get Baltimore.
Right.
We didn't get Dallas. We didn't get Philadelphia. We didn't get a God's honest, Super Bowl type team. So I think fair first test, albeit on the road, but fair first test.
I would say this too. I was shocked just on the entirety. They announced Brady's first game was going to be the 4:00 window as well, but it's Cowboys-Browns.
Cowboys-Browns, yeah.
But the Bucs are the late window too. I don't know. I thought they would give him his old team.
Interesting.
Right? I just thought that was...
There must not be many West Coast games there in week 1 because of this. Why would Washington, Tampa be in that window unless they don't have a lot of options to put in that window?
It could be Jaden effect.
Could be, but the national game is going to be Brady.
Oh, yeah, duh. Yeah,
national game is going to be Brady, so it's only going to be regional.
Yeah.
So they're not profiling it. They're this is going to be the regional 4 p.m. window game that's going to be seen in Florida and Washington, and that's it.
I will say from a viewer perspective, oh boy, 1:00 red zone, and then going to your game where there's only 2 other games. That's a nice little first Sunday of the season for the DMV right there.
And 4:25. So you even get all
good.
the ends.
You get the witching hour. So
you don't get the 4:05 start where you're like, I got to toggle back and forth. So you'll see all the ends of all the first games before we go in, and then I'll be all jacked up having watched the first games and ready to go there. So at Tampa, so that's a great, that's a fun start. Weather there's probably going to be a factor because it's going to be hot. It'll be hot that early down there.
Hot or rainy.
Hot, rainy, could be all that. So we'll see that. Then they get Giants at home. That'll be the home opener the following Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. The way the schedule reads right now, and I hate, I'm going to do it anyway, win, loss, but that's going to feel like with 2 more road games following that, regardless of how they perform in Tampa, it's going to feel pretty important to win that one. One home game out of the first 4.
Don't say the phrase. Don't say
must?
it. No, he's going with must win. No. The season hasn't even started yet.
No, but it's going to be important. The following game's at Cincinnati on a Monday night. Assuming Burrow's playing, we're not going to be favored in that. That's for sure.
Right.
I did think that was an interesting twist for a Monday night. I'm glad we got a Monday night game again. that they get, they're probably part of the sell is probably Burrow v. Daniels.
Yes.
Two Heisman winners.
LSU.
Top number 1 overall pick, number 2 overall pick, LSU.
Yep.
I think that's a pretty good sell there.
Yep.
And it'll be the first chance for the national audience to see him outside of the final preseason game is actually slated for NBC. But Jaden's probably not going to play in it because it's the final preseason game.
Right.
Who knows, but probably not. So the first real introduction to the national audience is going to be week 3 at Cincinnati. That's part of a doubleheader. Monday Night Football, we're 8:15 kickoff that night. Let's see, week 4 then at Arizona. So short rest, turnaround, fly across the country. Again, that ain't great.
Yep.
Like on the road, Monday night, get back, short work week, turn around. Let's see how Dan Quinn thinks about West Coast games. Do they go early? Because in the past, the teams have gone, at least last year, we went a couple days in advance to Seattle and to Los Angeles. I don't know how Dan Quinn's going to think or Adam Peters is going to think about that. But if there was the only game on the schedule where you'd have to really consider that is this one. But they'll be coming off a Monday night game. So I'll tell you what, I would argue just fly from Cincinnati to the desert.
Yeah, I would argue
I don't
too.
know if they're going to feel like that they want to do that. And plus, they'd have to get, Arizona State or somebody to accommate them for the week. It's the middle of the college football season, so there's a probably not type of situation there. But it almost screams that they should. Short week, Monday Night Football, go home off the road. You're not getting back till 3, 4 a.m.
Right.
You're not going to do anything Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then what? Fly Friday to Arizona? That's going to be a rough week.
Yeah.
So that's a bad draw.
To be fair as well.
It's a really bad. I know everyone's like, oh, Arizona, that's not a tough game. Well, that's a terrible draw.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that is their longest road trip of the year.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a wash, but it's their worst trip of the year, and
it's a bad week. It's a bad turnaround.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just off. Like it'd be one thing if it was Cincinnati on Sunday, but it's Monday night, so they got a really shortened week when they take on Arizona. I haven't done the whole accounting of who has buys before us and who gets us. We get New Orleans. I'm sure they don't have a bye the same week, so they're probably going to get us on the short week. But I want to see how that works out and see if we got screwed that way. I'm not really totally sure. After that, it'll be Cleveland at home. Shouldn't be an easy game.
Right. No, they've come in here and won. Game. Yeah, they won here 2 years ago.
I saw this because the Commanders put out tidbits about all the games. Our record against them all time is awful. Like really awful. Like 7-23 or something. Some awful number against them. So we'll get them, and then we go up Baltimore, and then basically we kind of after that Arizona game, we kind of don't even really travel of any length anywhere until we get to December.
Right.
So that's the good news. If they somehow get through the first 4, which is 3 of the first 4 are on the road, and 1 has a terrible turnaround, the West Coast trip off a Monday night game, let's just say they can get to 2-2. Cleveland home, Baltimore right up the road. Carolina home, Chicago home, at New York, that's a nothing travel experience. Pittsburgh home, at Philly, nothing travel experience, albeit turnaround. No, that's not the turn. Yeah, that's the turnaround for Thursday, but turnaround for both of us. Right. Then Dallas home, Tennessee home before the bye week. From a travel perspective, even with the road games in there, that's very favorable. Yep. So that is not like last year where they were going to Denver, coming home, flying to Seattle, coming home, that type of stuff. So that screams that's not arduous all the way to the bye week. So really the rest of the season, they'll be off a bye week before they take a trip again, like of any length at all, which is to New Orleans. And that's not even that terrible of a trip.
Right.
So the travel perspective of all this is actually very favorable. And I would describe it as if they can get through those first 6 games with a decent to around 500 record, it'll be sitting in front of them with very little travel ahead of them. So that's the good news for them. Carolina, Chicago, at New York, Pittsburgh home. That's the stretch that I think we're going to circle and go, they better eat.
Who are they? Yeah. Who are? It's
well, they better
who
eat
are they?
there.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, listen, I hate projecting what anybody's going to be, especially like Chicago or Pittsburgh for that matter, because Chicago could end up being.
Chicago's the scariest one out of those 4. I mean,
they could be really good out of the gates.
Yeah,
I mean, if Caleb is ahead of the curve, they could be really good out of the gates.
Yep.
So we don't know. Carolina looks like they're going to be bad. Carolina is one of the 2 teams that, when they put out the spreads of all their games, is not favored in a single game that they're playing this year. But new coach, we'll see what Bryce Young is. Of course, by the time we play them, a lot of things could have changed because it's the middle of the season. Then we go back up to New York for the rematch. I do find it's a little odd that we will not have played Dallas or Philly after we've played New York twice. That's a quirk of the whole thing. Then we get Pittsburgh here at Philly on the Thursday night. That's a bad turnaround. And I know we've won up there in these types of moments, but I think these are very different teams, or we're a very different team now. And that's a short turnaround and tough, but at least it's off a home game, so it's no big deal.
Refresh my memory, what was the Gilbert game? Was that
was a night game up there. That was late in the season.
But was that a moved game? Like, did they move that a day or something?
They moved it a day because we had a COVID outbreak and we didn't have a team to field. Right. So they moved it a day to give us a break, but we knew we had no shot.
Yeah, it was like, did they move it to a Tuesday or a Monday? Or no, it was a Monday. Yeah, it was a Sunday and they moved it to a Monday.
They moved it to a Monday, and the Eagles fans were all complaining about that. And I'm like, you guys are going to win anyway. Shut up. like, we have half our team, and our quarterback showed up here 2 days ago. Like, give me a break. So then we get Dallas, Tennessee before the bye. Again, like that Tennessee one right before the bye. I know it's going to be a long stretch before we get to our bye, but that's a good draw, I think, at home, at a conference, hopefully not a team that's contending. It's now December. Maybe you catch a break with them and you have the motivation of you're going to get the week off after that.
What I like is they have that Steelers game November 10th, and then they go to the Eagles, right? But it's Thursday, and it's a quick turnaround, right? From November 10th, they're not traveling until December 15th. They get over a month basically at home. So, I mean, that's going to be home cooking.
I mean, really, after that Arizona game, they're not really traveling anywhere of any length until they get to past the bye week because they're going to go up. They're going to take a bus to Baltimore in the morning. Right. The New York trip is no big whoop. They could fly or take the train, whatever they do. It's no big whoop. Going to Philadelphia is no big whoop. So the travel part of this is extremely favorable. If they get through the first month, just 500, somehow get to 500, even though it's 3 or 4 on the road, and then somehow split Baltimore, Cleveland, they'll be sitting in a spot where we'll go, guys, it's right there for you. Because if they can get to 500 through Baltimore, Carolina, Chicago home, at New York, Pittsburgh home, at Philly, Dallas, Tennessee home, they'll have no real excuse not to still be hovering 500 or even a little above it at that point, the way it kind of projects out. So I actually think that this is a very favorable draw for the way that they got it. It didn't get moved. Like, it's just early is tough. That's all. Then the latter stretches, it's so hard to predict. Will New Orleans be good when they play them? I don't know. Will Philly, they'll probably be good, but how good when they play them? But it's here. Then they get Atlanta. I think they're going to be better than they were, but will they be? Is Penix playing by then? Like, who knows, right? Who knows? And then they'll close at Dallas, and it's just impossible to know what that's going to mean for either team at this juncture, which is why I hate why that game is there. Because I would just rather it be in a spot in the season where it matters for both teams, and that would be anywhere but Week 18. But they've done it again, guys. They've done it again.
Outside of, that Falcons-Cowboys game, you want to hear fan perspective over here?
Yeah.
All 1 o'clock Sunday home games. No primetime driving to Commanders Field.
That's right. We don't have
not a single primetimer.
Every game is
home.
1 o'clock, scheduled 1 o'clock at home. None of them start to get flexed until October, November.
We're good.
So, yeah. I mean, I could see, I don't know if they start flexing early, but I could see a pathway to that Chicago one if both are ahead of the curve, that they maybe move that even to a 4 o'clock window. Maybe. If they're both like looking pretty good, Jaden versus Caleb's going to be such a favorable matchup for the TV networks that I could see that one maybe sliding to maybe a 4 o'clock window or something. That's possible.
That one and the Steelers one thing. I think that's one I circled. Because if, let's say, Russ or Fields is tearing it up and Jaden's tearing it up, that's going to be one that the league goes, yes, to premier markets. But for me, season ticket holder over here, 1 o'clock Sunday games all across the board, I am pumped about that.
Yeah, I think they really couldn't have asked for much more than this. Yeah. Really, I think it's a very, favorable schedule, other than the fact that with 4 of the first 6 on the road, 3 of them against ex-playoff teams. I'm counting Cincinnati that way because they would have been with Burrow. And Baltimore's, looks like a juggernaut. Tampa Bay was very good last year. That's a tough sled. So hopefully they're not 2-4 after that, where they're in a hole. That's what I'm hoping. If they're just at 3-3 through that, I think we're sitting pretty with the stretch that comes after that. And then all of a sudden, everything's kind of on the table for them to turn the season into whatever they want to make it because of the travel schedule, the amount of home games in the middle of the season. I hate the late bye week, but it it comes at a time where if it's favorable if you're winning.
That's right.
You know, and you could take the break because you're going to need it by December. I hate it. Professionally, I hate it too. It's just it's the one complaint. Like you said yesterday, like you don't have to go on the holidays. Well, you know what? Like I actually like calling a Thanksgiving Day game because it's so classic. You know, I love being part of that.
Yeah.
Like Christmas Day Wednesday, that's nuts. Did they do what I thought they were going to do, which was give the teams that are playing on Thanksgiving the week off, the bye week before that? They must have, right?
I didn't check the other teams, to be completely honest.
Let me check Kansas City's schedule over here because they're playing on Christmas Day. There's no way they made them. They're playing Saturday, so they had them play. Oh, there probably is no bye weeks before that. They played Saturday against Houston, then they play Wednesday.
So it's like a normal Sunday, Thursday turnaround.
Then they play Wednesday against Pittsburgh. Let me guess, Pittsburgh's going to be playing Saturday too. Yes, they're going to play Baltimore on a Saturday, then play Wednesday.
Baltimore on a Saturday, and then they're going to have to turn that around. Those games are body bag games. I mean,
oh my God! Listen to Pittsburgh's schedule down the stretch. After they have a bye week before us.
Okay,
so there's one of them.
All right.
So then they play Washington November 10th. Listen to this from there. Following Sunday against Baltimore. Thursday turnaround at Cleveland. Following Sunday at Cincinnati. Following Sunday home Cleveland. Following Sunday at Philly. Following Saturday at Baltimore. Turnaround Wednesday, Kansas City. Finale, Cincinnati.
Bloodbath.
Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati. 2 short week turnarounds. Tomlin must be just pissed. That's crazy.
I got to circle that at the halfway point.
That's crazy.
Circle that at the halfway point and make some bets against them, depending on what their record is.
But actually, think about this for a second. That means they don't play. Pittsburgh does not play a divisional opponent until November 17th.
Bears, same thing. Bears don't play a divisional opponent until after week 9.
Yeah, they play Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Baltimore in a 6-week stretch.
Yeah, I don't understand what they're doing with these division games at this point.
That sucks. That's ridiculous. No, that's ridiculous.
Look at the Bears. The Bears' first divisional game, it's even worse. Their first divisional game is November 24th.
November 24th? Their first divisional game?
They host the Vikings, then
and
go
then
at
Thanksgiving,
Lions.
right?
Yeah. They host the Vikings. They go at Lions for Thanksgiving. Then they go at 49ers, at Vikings, at Bears, host the Lions. Then they host the Seahawks. Then they host the Packers the last game of the year. It's all November 17th. That's where the Packers starts.
First Packers game. So the Bears and Steelers both do not play a divisional opponent until November 17th.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Bears having 6 of 8. They did this
to Washington a couple of years ago when we went Philly, Dallas.
Yeah, right.
And unfortunately, we had the COVID outbreak, which just totally throttled the whole season for them. But why?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Why?
I don't get it at all.
I think it's moving all these things around on all these different platforms and all these different places, and they got to appease everybody, that they're probably getting themselves in a bind where all these different networks want specific matchups if they can get them, so they're wedging them in, is what it sounds like is happening. And that's not great. I don't like that. Like Pittsburgh playing all of their division games in the final month and a half. Come on.
At least an argument can be made with the NFC North, though, that should be tight. Should be.
Yeah.
And so seeing all those probably flip the standings, I could see the argument there. But like when they were doing it with us for years in a row, it didn't make any sense. Like, because on paper, you would have to have a lot go right for this team to be in contention 3 years in a row. So,
all right, so let's see. Let's pick it. Here we go.
All right. Man.
Well, you have to. You have no choice. We're 4-point underdogs, by the way, as of today to Tampa Bay. At Tampa, Baker's back. Got a lot of money. Defense is different for them.
Do you have the big board out with command tangibles behind you today?
Quarterback, check Washington. Defense, check Washington.
Special teams?
Yeah, check Washington. Check.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Coaching, check Washington. Yeah, I'm going to do the whole thing. You know what? Why not? Give me a win in week 1 at Tampa. Give me a win. No?
Not happening.
No?
Barring a RG3-esque debut for Jaden.
Okay.
Not happening.
Overdue. It's gonna be a driving rainstorm, by the way, there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So Austin Eckler, are you ready to go? You ready, buddy?
B-Rob, Eckler.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Jaden like 6 of 12, 112 yards for the day. Something like that.
I don't think I've ever done this before. I was out there on Tuesday for the one practice that they let us watch. I haven't even told you what I saw.
Yeah,
we've been so busy with everything else.
Yeah.
I will say, since we're going to be in a driving rainstorm and have to run the ball 40 times in that game, B-Rob looks bigger.
Oh.
Stronger.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Terry looks bigger. He looks really in shape, too. And the other one I wanted to just bring up was this rookie Jordan McGee, the 5th-round pick who was the linebacker out of Temple. So he likes his guns. He was wearing the cutoff jersey to show off his arms. And they listed him at 225. And when I saw that, I went, well, let's just see. He's probably too small. He doesn't look it in person. He looks bigger than what they list him as. So that was a good sign. Okay. Not that should matter, but sometimes Emmanuel Forbes looked his size when I saw him last year. Jaden actually looked bigger and sturdier than I anticipated because I kept thinking, oh God, he's cartoon character is going to get blown up. But he's actually thicker, in the lower, has the NFL lower body. He's just thin up top.
Got it.
So we'll have to just see, do they really want to put weight on him? Because will that mitigate his speed? And you don't want to do that. But I was reassured that he didn't look as thin as when you watch the tape of him as he probably looked.
Got it.
All right, so I got to win at Tampa because I'm feeling good about everything.
Going L.
I'm going to get them to 2-0 again. They're going to beat the Giants at home because we're so overdue to beat them. And maybe the Giants will wear those dumb New jerseys that they revealed
I don't think they're going
today.
to wear them to our place.
But they should after their I don't know if you saw their fan reaction to them, but because they're celebrating their 100th year.
Right.
So they're wearing something that's like a throwback, I guess, to 100 years ago. And it looks like it should have never been worn in the first place.
Right.
They're really, really bad. I put them up there with the bumblebees that the Steelers wore, where I went, that's really bad.
Really
I
put them with
or the Eagles when they wore the blue, and it was like you don't even look like the Eagles anymore.
Right. Yeah. Those
Boundary Stones Eagles. That's what those were. Boundary Stones.
Boundary Stones are better than those Eagles ones.
The Giants ones are pretty bad.
They're pretty bad.
So maybe they'll wear them on the road because they don't want to wear them at home because their fans revolted when they put that out. And I don't blame them because it's as bad a look as they could have.
My first reaction to those is always, the skill position guys, you look good and everything. But all I ever think about are these huge 300-pound linemen that are like, dude, stripes? Come on, man. You're doing me no favors on that one.
You know my test when they hire a coach. Can you ever see this person picking up the Lombardi Trophy? Could you ever see somebody wearing those uniforms holding up the Lombardi Trophy?
No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All right, so I got the Commanders starting the season as they did a year ago, 2-0. They beat Tampa on the road in a driving rainstorm.
Okay.
Come home opener. Everybody's all pumped and psyched. They get to see Jaden for the first time in a real game. Yep. And we're just overdue to beat the Giants, so we're 2-0.
I will say this, too. The home openers are usually a vibe here. It usually is. Yeah. Very well attended. People like to go to the home opener no matter how they feel about the team usually.
Champ will come back. Daryl will come back.
Yeah, you know what the celebration's going to look like?
We also don't know. They're going to retire Daryl's number. What game are they doing that at? We don't know yet.
Right, exactly.
It screams to me do it for the Dallas game, but because, but I don't know. Let's see.
They've made this mistake, though, of making those ceremonies in games that don't matter. I always felt bad that the Sunny game happened.
No, but the Dallas game is here, and it's early. So it's not. It's at the part of the season where it should matter. So, unlike week 18. I don't want to do week 18, but that's week 12. So that feels better. Let's see. Then they'll go to Cincinnati on Monday night. I don't like that. So let's go 2-1. That's a tough task.
All right.
At Arizona. I don't know what they're going to look like, obviously. They're kind of hard to figure at this point, but Kyler's back. Year 2 with the bus, You take the bus. You take the bus. They almost beat us last year.
Correct.
In the first game when everybody was like, this is the layup of all layups you could ever have.
That fan base was not happy at halftime.
No, I wasn't happy at halftime. I was doing eyeballs to London the whole time going, we're not going to lose this game, are we? Because that whole week was like, I don't know how our season's going to go, but we're going to win this.
Right.
They gave us a layup, and when that dude came off the edge and scored a touchdown, I went, oh, my God, we're going to lose. Anyway, all right, so at Arizona, short turnaround. I'm going to call it 2-2. I think that's a tough call. So 2-2, which brings us back to Cleveland. I better pick a win. Otherwise, because going up to Baltimore's big ask.
You have them at 2-2. I have them at 1-3 right now.
1-3.
I do.
You have them losing all the road games, or you have them and beating the Giants.
Yes.
Okay. I'll be optimistic and say 2-2. Come home, beat Cleveland. 3-2.
I as well have them beating.
Go Cleveland. To Baltimore. That's going to be a fun week because Jaden Daniels has openly said like one of his heroes is watching Lamar Jackson,
so
which is not a surprise for modern quarterbacks to say they love Lamar Jackson. He said he loves Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson. When I heard him say that stuff, I went, "That's cool. You want to be a unique player, right?"
Yeah.
So that'll be a good hype week, but I can't pick them on the road against the Ravens. So I'll go 3-3.
Okay.
Come home, beat Carolina, 4-3.
Yep.
I need to know what Chicago is. We've had problems with them. We barely beat them in that Wentz game a couple of years ago and beat them by a whisker. Like literally, they stopped Mooney at the 1-inch line to win a 12th. That was the game where Al lost it. And he was like, this Thursday night football thing is terrible. And Dan Snyder's got to go. That was that game.
That was the beginning of that.
Then last year was awful. That was the I'm shook game.
That was the...
We made Justin Fields into a Hall of Famer.
It's something I'd never done before. I left at halftime and was in front of my TV at the beginning of the third quarter.
That was the game where I went, I don't think we're coming back from this.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Which is weird in the NFL to say that, but I don't think we are. That was terrible. Chicago, that's a hard one to pick.
I think they're I'm just gonna say I think they're too talented overall. They have a better roster than we do right now. So
that'll be a hell of a week too. The hype of Jaden versus Caleb.
Of course. Caleb coming back home too. That'll be a storyline.
All right. I'll pick the Bears. All right, so that gets them to 4-4.
Okay.
At New York.
Don't overthink it.
4-5.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Right.
So then the pressure will be on because they've got Pittsburgh, Philly, Pittsburgh home, Philly on a short turnaround. Yep. I will be optimistic and take them over the Steelers to get them to 5-5.
Okay.
Lose at Philly 5-6. That Dallas game is going to feel like the season.
Right.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to feel like the season that they got to win it. And you know what? Why not? Let's retire Daryl's number. Everybody feels great. They win 6-6, boosts them into the Tennessee game where they're playing a team that is going to be one of the first teams that are kind of out of it, I think. Well, maybe not. That division's a little wonky, so maybe not. But I'll take them to get to 7-6 when they hit the bye week.
Okay.
They hit the bye week. Then I'm hoping Carr and the Saints have cratered by this point. They probably won't, but they might, right? Because they do nothing this offseason. So Atlanta's got all the hype now. Tampa's an ex-playoff team. The Saints are the ones that blew it last year. Do you buy them? I don't know. Why not? Let's take them to win in New Orleans off a bye week, 8-6. Philly's here. Everyone's going to be like, we're playoffs if we win.
Right.
We're going to lose. 8-7.
Oh, okay. All right.
Here comes Kirk.
Yep. Or Penix.
8-7. Well, I got 8-7 at this point, so they got to win.
No, you've won too many.
I got them 8-7 at this point because I got 2 games left.
Okay,
8-7 at this point. Last home game Atlanta, and it'll be the same thing. If you win this, you got a real shot at the playoffs as a wild card because 9 likely at least has you in the conversation. You're kind of right there. Probably not to win the division, but you're right there. All right, why not? 9-7. And then lose at Dallas because they need it. And we finish 9-8. How about that? Over 500 Dan Quinn first season. And I'll tell you what, 9-8 playoffs or no playoffs, dependent if 9's enough. That is a good first season if that actually happens. Over 500 first season, that's a really good first. With this roster mishmashed like this, that's a really good first season if that were to happen.
You and I have the same record, just on different ways to go.
Oh, how'd you get to 9-8?
I'll just run through it real quick.
You're optimistic. Look at you, 9-8. All right, I thought you were going to come in here and say 7-10 to me.
No, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. Let's be honest. They lose at Tampa, same reasons as you said. Or no, do you have them winning Tampa?
I had them winning and starting 2-0.
So I have them losing to Tampa. Yeah. Road game, hot, whatever. Baker's a professional quarterback. It's going to be Jaden's first game. Not happening. They'll beat the Giants for the home opener. Home opener's always good vibes. They're overdue, as you said, to beat them. Bengals, they lose. Primetime, whatever. They're going to lose the Cardinals game as well. I actually have them winning the Browns game. I think they're going to scheme up that defense and beat Deshaun. Deshaun can be beat. And so I think they
agree,
scheme.
actually.
I think, and they're going to get a weird win somewhere. This never skews
Who
how
knows
we think
with
it's
him?
going to be.
Jameis could be plagued by that point.
Correct.
Who knows?
Yes, right. Maybe they lose all
and
their
actually,
quarterbacks.
if that happens, I love our chances against them because he can't move.
Right.
And that's where Quinn is licking his chops when he gets somebody who can't move.
Exactly. Then loss against the Ravens, win against the Panthers. And then you've got to bear with me here. They lose against the Bears, the Giants, the Steelers, and the Eagles. They lose 4 in a row. They lose for a month.
And you still have them at 9-8?
Then they run the table. Win 6 straight. They beat the Cowboys.
No
they
way.
beat the Titans. They beat the Saints. They beat the Eagles. They beat the Falcons, and they beat the Cowboys the last game of the year.
If that actually happens, do you understand the emotional high I will be on
I'm sorry,
at the end of it?
Do you remember the last time RG3 made the playoffs?
Oh, you're going that route.
They won 6 straight.
Do you remember what happened after that happened with RG3?
Yes, I do.
I don't want any
Who did they
history
play week
repeating
18
with
that year? Or week 17 that year?
Dallas.
Who are they playing week 18 this year?
Dallas.
All
So,
those games are winnable down the stretch.
Now, in that scenario, when they play Baltimore, Jaden's going to get cut in half by a 350-pound defensive
possibly.
lineman, which I can't have.
But they're also playing 4 out of 6 at home those last 6 weeks, and they're playing at the Saints, which for some reason this franchise always plays really well down there. It hasn't mattered who the coach has been.
Yeah.
They win down there no matter who is playing. So
Well, it's weird. Like last year when it came out, I went, they're playing the Jets. That looks terrible. Well, we didn't know.
Correct.
Then they played the Rams. They looked like they were going to be bad. They were good.
That's right.
So like when we play, we don't know. So New Orleans to me after the bye week is a total. I don't know what they're going to be.
Sure.
They probably don't know what we're going to be, but I don't know what they're going to be.
But there were teams
Tennessee, same thing right before the bye week. They might be better than you think.
Right.
I don't think they're good, but they might be better than you think.
Right.
So you don't know.
6 straight to finish the year.
Oh my God. I will be. Don't even bother talking to me. If we're on especially if they go into the playoffs on something like they sneak into the playoffs on a 6-game win streak. Oh my God.
That's the only way in my lifetime they've made the playoffs.
Is that right?
The last 3 times, yeah.
Right.
Or sorry, except the Green Bay run, the 2016 run. Besides that one, that's how they've won. That's how they've gotten in every time they go on a.
Was
they
the
win
RG3
straight.
one?
RG3 was like 6 straight.
That included Cousins playing a couple of games.
Right. The one before that is the one after the 2012 one was the one I don't count, where they won the division. But then the one before that was 07 when Sean died. They won. They won like
Todd
4 or 5 in a
Collins.
row.
Yeah.
And then same thing, 2005, the last time they won a playoff game, they won 5 in a row getting into the playoffs that way.
Let me tell you something. Either way, if that happens, people are going to be bonkers about what 2025 looks like. Either way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And I have all the faith in the world, actually, with this group that they're going to see what is wrong with the team, make adjustments week to week, and sign players that they need and figure it out.
Yeah, this is one of those things, too, with the way the roster is constructed. What it looks like at the beginning is not what it's going to look like by the end, especially on defense, because there's a lot of moving parts that are going on there. Like, who are really the starting corners for them? Who are really the safety tandem?
Correct.
You know, how much is Jamin actually playing? How does Johnny Newton fit in with this defense?
That's right.
What is the rush end situation? Like, it could all be varying. It's going to be amorphous, really.
Who do they add at the trade deadline? Who do they...
do they add at the trade
That's
deadline? Do they do it? Because I have a feeling Peters is probably still in year one of we'll move some pieces if we have to get more draft capital.
Correct. Right. Exactly. So you don't know.
You don't know. Like Bobby Wagner's an interesting person here. Like I think he's great for them. Mm-hmm. He did an interview today.
With Kay Adams.
And she said something to the effect of to him like, "What are you chasing here?" Because like no one thinks this is a Super Bowl team. Well. By the middle of the season, if he's having the year he wants to have, it might be a conversation with him. He might be too important for them. They just want to keep him around. But he is on a 1-year deal where they may say something to him like, "Hey, man, you want to go play for a contender now?"
Right. I mean, he did.
I don't know.
He did say to her that it's his favorite. It's literally his favorite coaches he's ever had. It's Quinn.
I think he's here. He chose to be here.
It's Quinn and whoever the linebackers coach is. He said is like his favorite coach of all time. So he did mention in that interview, by the way, the Cowboys tried to sign him and they didn't offer him enough money.
Oh,
so,
all right.
Yeah.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah. Right.
All right, we'll go through some of the others next. Bram Washington Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Bone Thugs and Harmony from 1996.
Say it whiter next
time. Bone Thugs and Harmony. 1996 is Throwback Thursday. That is the last time the Washington Redskins played at RFK Stadium. And if it was up to Senator Daines, they'd go back to RFK as the Redskins, or at least with the famous logo that was on their helmet from the early 1970s.
Have I ever told you the story about the last game at RFK with my parents?
That he broke his...
My dad broke his arm.
Charging the field.
Wasn't drunk.
Throwing fireworks.
Didn't have a drink. Just tripped down the stairs.
He wasn't throwing the flares onto the field?
No, he was not throwing the flares.
Okay.
That is like me. He's not that bold.
No, I wouldn't throw flares either.
They actually said...
I'd be certain I'd hurt myself if I was throwing flares at anybody.
The doctor actually said to my dad, it was actually bad you weren't drunk because you wouldn't have tried to break your fall. You wouldn't have broken your arm. You would have just tumbled and been fine.
Yeah. Next time, just fall.
Or next time, just drink. That's the moral of the story.
Obviously, we're focusing in on RFK for Throwback Thursday because it is back in the news today. Senator Daines of Montana, who is the ranking member on the committee that needs to pass the legislation through to actually allow the Senate to vote on the bill that was passed by the House to allow D.C. to actually get the land, to actually do something with it, actually stood up yesterday, as he promised, and went on a 10-minute diatribe about why he believes that it is time for the Washington Commanders to make nice with the family. I don't even know that there's an issue, who created the famous logo that was on the Redskins helmet for years that obviously went away with all of the brand change as the team stepped away from its link to Native American history. Mm-hmm. And he basically said it's time for them to bring that back. I'm going to play the bites at 4 o'clock. He went out of his way to say, I'm not asking for the name to come back. He understands that. But what he wants, and said, I will not pass this unless you figure out a way to make the family and the tribe happy. And that means profiling, showcasing, and honoring the logo and other links to Native American history. So where this goes from here, I don't know. I do know, as I speak, I think pretty much for the entire fan base who cares, fine.
Right, yeah.
Great. No problem. No argument here.
Right, of course. This is what I told you.
Yeah.
It's, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, we have to do that.
We have to show that in the stadium again?
Oh, shucks.
Darn it.
Yeah, what a shame.
Oh, darn. Let's go through the schedules real quick of the 3 other teams in our division just to kind of get a gauge of it. The Giants start with the Vikings at home, so they're either going to get JJ or Darnold.
Right.
That's a pretty good draw at home.
That's
they
right.
get them. Then they come to Washington. They go back-to-back road at Washington, at Cleveland. Then they get Dallas at home. That's not bad.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
That's not bad. They're probably making a case today. We could be 3-1. They're probably making a case. Like, well, we'll either lose to Cleveland or the Dallas game, but the Dallas game's here. Bing bong.
Bing bonging.
Hey, Jalen Brunson's going to show up. He's going to be wearing his Malik Neighbors jersey.
Oh,
we're ready. Let's go, G-Man, Big Blue.
We don't know if Brunson's going to be a Giants fan, though.
No, we don't know.
Could be Jets or whatever team he actually likes.
Whatever team they tell him to root for. Let's see. After that, things get a little difficult for the next month. At Seattle, that's always a hard one. Mm-hmm. Cincinnati, it's at home, but it's a night game home. They don't do well in the night games at home lately.
True.
Then they have Philadelphia at home. So they have a lot of home games here early. Then they go at Pittsburgh on a Monday night. So they got tough night games.
Ooh,
tough turnarounds.
We get them off the Monday night game then.
We do. Then Washington in New York. Then they get Carolina. They get their bye week. So those are the 2 they're looking at going, we better win that Commanders and Panthers game before the bye week. They close with Buccaneers at home, at Dallas, New Orleans, Baltimore at home, at Atlanta versus Colts, who you don't know.
Yeah,
you don't know. And then they finish at Philadelphia, and we'll see if that matters for either team or matter for one of them probably. But, you know, Philly, it figures Philly or Dallas or one of them's probably got the division locked up at that point. So, that game may or may not matter for Philadelphia as it plays out.
It's interesting that they actually play the Cowboys and they're done with them by November.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a weird one for them.
Here's Phillies. So they start in Brazil.
Can I say the one more thing about the Giants?
Yeah. December
15th, they host the Ravens.
Yeah.
Purple in that stadium like crazy.
Probably.
Like takeover.
Stavros, hon.
That schedule reveal video is one of my favorites, by the way.
It was pretty good. It was
good for us because it was local ties. It was a lot of
pickles.
Went to Jimmy Seafood. Like, it was good. It was good on that.
It hit the high notes.
And then he went to the trailer park in LA. Where's he at? That was good. Good bit with Harbaugh. Yeah.
Let's see. Eagles start in Brazil.
Yep.
Against Green Bay. Then they come back home and have a Monday night game against Atlanta. So Kirk v. Philly, last time he did that, he threw 18 million interceptions, but he was with the Vikings at the time. Then they hit the road for 2, New Orleans and Tampa, and they get a very early bye week. Off of that early schedule with Brazil, they probably going to need it.
Yeah.
Then they get Cleveland at home, at New York, at Cincinnati. Jacksonville's a night game, Sunday night game at home. That's a weird one. I'm surprised NBC put Jackson. I guess that's Dougie P in Philadelphia. That's what they're trying there a little bit.
I guess so. Well, because Dougie P doesn't have a statue. Doesn't he have a statue there?
Maybe. I mean, they won the Super Bowl.
Pretty sure he and Foles have a statue.
Sunday, November 10th, they got a 425 at Dallas.
Of course.
Then they play Washington at home. That's sandwiched 3 of 4 away in that stretch for them. At Dallas, Washington at home, at Rams, at Baltimore. At Rams is a night game for them.
Yep.
And then at Baltimore, 425. That's a tough stretch. Then they get Carolina, which is going to be a must-win for them. Then they'll get Pittsburgh at home. At Washington, Dallas home, New York home. So 4 of their final 5 at the Link. Now, that didn't matter last year. Remember, they went sour by that point and lost to Arizona at home. Remember, they went totally sour. But assuming it's a different year for them, 4 of their final 5 at home, very favorable schedule. I look at theirs and go, that's an extremely favorable schedule, other than they got to go to Brazil and they got a lot of night games. Which is not a surprise, the way they've been playing.
Like you said, though, off the Brazil game, though, they also get an extra day because it's the Monday night game. So that's actually like they have a little mini bye to start.
And it's their home opener.
Yeah.
And then they'll get New Orleans and Tampa. And again, with both of those teams, I don't know.
I think they're going to start 6-0.
Well, the Brazil game's impossible to guess because that's going to be weird for everybody.
Sure.
And Green Bay is good.
Right.
So then they'll get Atlanta at home, I would assume, as a win. At New Orleans, at Tampa, I think they at least win one of those. But I think 3-1 is very possible. Yeah. And if they win that Green Bay game, 4-0 is very, very possible. Then they'll get Cleveland at home, at New York. You might be right. They could be 5-1, 6-0 going to Cincinnati. But that's when they hit their stretch. Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Dallas, Washington, Rams, Baltimore. That's when things will course correct at least a little bit. There's too many good opponents in there.
6-0, and what will A.J. Brown be bitching about?
Don't know. And as for the Cowboys, Tom Brady's first game is Cowboys at Cleveland, 4:25 Sunday, September 8th. Then they get back-to-back home games, New Orleans and Baltimore. That's a good one, early season.
Yeah,
Baltimore, Dallas, in Dallas. Then they go at New York, at Pittsburgh. Then they get Detroit at home. That'll be great rematch. Remember, that was a crazy game last year.
That at New York is a Thursday nighter, too, by the way.
Bye week for them before they go to San Francisco. So that's a break because they get a bye week before having to go to San Francisco. Yep. That's a night game. Then they go to Atlanta. So they go to San Francisco, come home, fly to Atlanta. It's a tough turnaround for them.
That Atlanta game, okay, never mind. There's only 2 1:00 games in that first half of the season.
They've got then back-to-back home games. Philly and Houston are out of the WAC schedule is Tennessee. Theirs is Houston. That's who they got. So it's a tougher draw. Then they'll come here. Then they'll do Thanksgiving home against the Giants. Turn around they'll get an extra day again Monday night against Cincinnati at home. That's a night game. So they're going to come off Thanksgiving and then do the night game Monday night, Cincinnati. At Carolina, Tampa, at Philly, Washington. That's favorable.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's, 2-2 to end the last month, but it's at Carolina, who ought to be out of it by then. Then they're going to play Tampa. We don't know, but it's at home. Then they go to Philadelphia, and I'm sure the schedule makers are hoping that's for the division, but it may or may not be. Then Week 18 is Week 18, but it's Washington, but it's at home. So if they need it, they're at home. Their schedule, to me, reads as very favorable. Early feels they can navigate it for sure.
Yep.
The middle of the season gets a little tough with that at San Francisco, at Atlanta, Philly, Houston, at Washington stretch. That's a rough stretch. They get through that just 3-2, 2-3, something like that. They should be fine because it's New York, Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's home. At Carolina should be a win.
Yep.
Tampa at home. Dallas' schedule seems pretty favorable.
Yeah.
In the way that it's set up.
Down the stretch, too. They'll be fine.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. However long it takes to get into a break tells you how much Callow likes the song he selected for Throwback Thursday for one particular segment. And I do like the Quad City DJs.
Quad City DJs are undefeated.
This is a great one-hit wonder. If there was ever a one-hit wonder bracket and they were in it, I don't know what seed they would be.
They'd be a 12 seed, but they would upset the 5 seed.
No matter who it is.
Easy.
Chumbawamba.
Yeah.
You're out.
Chumbawamba's got 2 hits.
We should do that. One-hit wonder bracket.
Okay. I'm down with that.
All right.
What do you want to do in like July when there's nothing going on?
We need a panel though to pick the bracket. We can't just arbitrarily put all them in there. We need to like have a selection committee. Seed them.
We should be on the selection committee.
Well, we're
That's
on
the problem.
But we need more people on the selection committee. So if you want to be on the selection committee, let me know. We need lists of one-hit wonders and their song.
Because we don't know them that well yet, we should fold in our spirit partners with that.
Oh, yeah?
Ask Mike and Gabby. We don't know what they like.
That's true.
It's complete third party, no bias, whatever. You and I are a little biased.
Ask London about it, too.
Yes, let's do it.
Ask Logan about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Figure it all out. Ask Dan Quinn.
Smoot.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's going to name some Jay-Z song. I'm going to be like, he's not a one-hit wonder. Let's see. Donovan Mitchell had some pointed words for all the people who were saying he hated his teammates. He's like, I'm sick of y'all, was his quote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But The Athletic did post what they're calling a great Now They Tell Us piece today upon their funeral of this particular season. That among the things that are in this article about the Cavaliers are the president of basketball operations admonished the head coach for playing Donovan Mitchell too much during an overtime win over the Rockets in December.
Okay.
His job's in serious jeopardy. Mitchell and the other players did not have great confidence in Bickerstaff, questioned his strategies. That means he's done. Jared Allen's absence due to bruised ribs the last 2 weeks caused frustration because he wouldn't take an injection to numb the pain. There are ongoing questions about the fit with Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. Garland's representation would have a conversation with the Cavs about potentially trading him if Mitchell re-signs with Cleveland this summer. Mitchell wanted the franchise to aim higher than winning a first-round series, but still could sign a long-term extension. Mobley's representation asked Cleveland not to draft him in 2021 in the hopes of facilitating a trade to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Actually, that's a bit of a surprise. The Cavs have spent the past 3 seasons prioritizing winning over Mobley's personal development. Veteran Cavs players grew upset over Bickerstaff treating them as they were a young team. Mitchell's workload played a role in him declining an invitation from USA Basketball, which hurt his chances of being on the Olympic team. Players were upset Cleveland seemingly tanked its regular season finale to avoid facing the Sixers in the first round of the playoffs. And members of the organization believe Bickerstaff made comments praising the Celtics as an unfavorable comparison to his own team in the second round series. Sounds like things are great there.
I think he's fired.
Yeah.
We're going to start there. Everything else, that is a laundry list of things they need to figure out. Good luck with all that. Oh, by the way, you're Cleveland. You can't demand any of that stuff to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the letters from the owner this time around. So-called you, so-called that.
Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Best part about that one.
Okay, let's get to the great political grandstanding of our great city once again that reared its head yesterday in a committee meeting over the RFK land site. And all we're asking the Senate to do is take the bill that was already passed by the House with very little discussion about it, honestly, because let's just take this on its face. First off, Senator Daines, what we're trying to do here is get decrepit land that's waterfront, expensive, valuable property and just put it back in the hands of the people who live there and allow them to do what they want with it. That may be a stadium and it may not. But what it is right now is untenable, and it has been for a long time because the National Park Service and the federal government essentially own the lease to it, and you have to ask them if you want to do anything, and no matter what we ask them, apparently they say no.
That's right. Right.
So we've worked through half of the legislative body to get to this point, and then Senator Daines from Montana, who's the ranking member on this committee, it has to go through committee, and then the piece of legislation, if it passes this committee, would then go to the Senate floor to be voted on. The Republicans hold the majority in the House. The Democrats hold the majority in the Senate. No one's asked Chuck Schumer and them, would you just pass this if it went on the floor? I would think they would, but you don't know until you ask.
Right.
Well, there's a hang-up. Senator Daines preemptively went on the Junkies, talked to the Washington Post, talked to Ben Standig about what he was about to do yesterday. And I cut a few clips of it because, and Rick Snyder tweeted this, and I thought it was pretty good. It's 10 minutes of him explaining his position on the old Redskins logo. the famous one that we all love and no one thinks is offensive.
Right.
But because the team's name was changed and everybody wanted them to distance themselves from Native American history, imagery, whatever, in general, the team moved away, obviously, from the logo. And, well, now it's been revived thanks to him and his personal conversations with constituents of his that are members of the family that actually made the logo in the first place, gave it to George Allen, and he turned it into the logo that we revered on the helmet of the team for 40-something years.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so here's number one. First clip from Senator Daines is about the logo itself and why it's important.
This logo was inspired and envisioned by Wetzel as a tribute to Native Americans. It's not a caricature. It is a depiction of pride, of strength, of courage, of honor. In fact, to quote Blackie Wetzel from 2002, he said, "It made us all so proud to have an Indian on a big-time team."
Okay, so this is part one. This is not offensive. The people who made it didn't think it was offensive.
Yep.
The NFL didn't think it was offensive. And what we've talked about forever, no one here looked at it that way.
Right.
It wasn't intended that way.
Correct.
Now, the name's a different story.
Correct.
But if we just talk about the logo, and I'm staring at it because
Right.
it's behind you on a placard we have in our studio here, who thinks that that was an offensive thing? Right.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and everybody who's, fans of the team are going, he's right.
Yeah. Right.
And I even think even the people who were against all of the associations would say, all right, take a look at it.
Yes.
Does it seriously evoke some kind of horrific
Right.
imagery? It doesn't. It's not the tomahawk chop. It's not that cartoon that was on the Indians' hat
right.
for all those years.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Number two, he makes something very clear about the case that I'm not going to play the whole 10 minutes, obviously. He makes something very clear about what he's asking here, and it's this.
Now you know the history. I'd like to talk about the future. First, let me be clear. I'm not calling for the return of the former team name, which has become increasingly controversial, especially in Indian country. But the logo itself remains a point of pride for many in Indian country, and specifically for the Wetzel family. I was able to speak last night with Ryan Wetzel, who is the grandson of Blackie Wetzel, who was out, in fact, in his backyard last night doing some remodeling work on a patio just outside of Hamilton, Montana. The failure to properly honor the pride and the history embodied by this iconic logo must be made right by both the team's new ownership and the NFL. Doing so would honor the Blackfeet tribe, my constituents in Montana.
Okay, so he loves the logo, thinks it should be revered, and something needs, he's not saying what, but something needs to happen, but he clarifies, I'm not telling you to bring the name back because that's not going to happen.
Right. Correct.
There is no rolling that back.
This might be the most agreeable Republican that I've been, listening to in a long time.
That's right. All right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
The way
If Marjorie Taylor Greene was doing the same thing, would it land the same way? It's a good question.
That is a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, Joe.
The Dr. Evil.
Yeah. Okay, so now we move to what he wants. Okay, he set it up. The logo is not offensive. It's actually a source of pride. It is iconic. His constituents want the team to profile it in some way that is not explained. I'm not saying bring the name back because we know that's the can of worms you can't open up here, and it's not going to happen. So what does he want them to do? This is what he wants them to do.
What I'm demanding here is very straightforward, that the new team leadership and the NFL sit down with the Wetzel family, sit down with the Blackfeet, sit down with tribal leaders, and find a way to properly honor the history of the logo and the heritage of our tribal nations and to rededicate the organization as an advocate for Indian country.
Okay, now this is the amazing part of that statement. Think about 5 years ago when, or more than that, actually, 10 years ago, when Dan Snyder did I'm never changing the name, period, and started doing, what some people called propaganda and others called, look, we polled Native American tribes. We asked them how they feel about all of it. They would always come back and say, they're not offended by it. Why are you?
Yeah.
If they're not offended by it, why are you? The name is a different story because it just evokes too much of a slur. Mm-hmm. But all this other stuff, well, I guess that's back in debate. But it's just so rich hearing a politician talk about this when it wasn't that long ago that they and the corporates were the reason why this stuff disappeared in the first place. So it's just kind of like, where have you been? Why didn't you stand up then and say, don't get rid of that before it was too late and it's gone?
Exactly.
Okay. Right. Sorry. So final part. In summation, here's the important part. If he doesn't get what he wants, this is going to happen.
The team can be a beacon of light for these communities, but until I see meaningful actions that satisfy the Wetzel family and other tribal stakeholders, I cannot support this legislation.
Okay. And as we learned, because I was like, at first I'm kind of like, he's one vote. What's it matter? Well, he's the ranking member.
That's right.
And what came out, recently in the reporting, and Sam Fortier covered this very well in the Washington Post. This bill is one of those bills that apparently those in the Senate want to know is going to be unanimous. They don't want to have a fight over it. It's not important enough for them to have this isn't abortion law. They don't want to have a fight over it, right? So basically, if he continues to raise his hand and put up a red flag as the ranking member, it's not going to happen. So we have to ask a question, and a big one here, okay? Because the team hasn't publicly said anything about this yet, but privately has told everybody, we already met with the family.
Yeah, right.
So what did they talk about? I don't know. Here's the question. What actually do they want?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I don't know what the answer to that is. However, there is a possibility here that they want maybe the rights to the logo since you're not using it any longer,
right?
Of which the team might say it's an extremely valuable logo, and therefore we kind of can't do that.
Right, exactly.
Because it's being painted right now as we want them to show it again, honor it, and have it associated with the team. The team knows that that's a murky situation. Now, I believe that the simple answer would be, yeah, profile it. It's not going to be on the helmet again. It's not going to be at midfield, but it might be in the new Hall of Fame that they build, or the new stadium that they build, or at an entrance as you walk in and you see it, and it is a source of pride and meant to be to showcase the history and to showcase the pride and tradition of the organization. But what if it's not that? What if actually they're saying, you retired this, we're actually proud of this, we're the rightful owners of this, we want it back free and clear to do what we wish with it. Has anybody thought that that is something that might be going on here, that it isn't actually necessarily about forcing the team to honor it and show it again, but maybe if you're not going to, we want it back?
Do we?
That is I'm not accusing him of it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a possibility that is partially what's going on here. If you're not going to use it, we want it because they know it's a valuable, iconic logo.
Do we know, were they getting any money from having that logo
I don't know.
made? Because I think
I don't know.
That's a possibility too. Were they skimming, a part of a percentage of whatever they were getting, and then when they stopped using it, that,
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. So maybe that's a part of it too.
This is part of this.
Because I was going to say, I suggested this to you when I was going on full Pepe Sylvia conspiracy theory rant on Tuesday. Maybe it's also a avenue that they're trying to say, hey, the logo exists, and if they do get a portion of it, why are you not selling the stuff? Because people that want it are just buying it on these other sites, and you're not making any money off it. And it could be from them going, we're not making any money off of it either. So
that's what I think might be happening here. Now, I don't know that, and I don't want to accuse them of
course,
that. I don't. And I do agree on its face, this is a valuable piece of property. And I also agree, and feel free to disagree with me about this. I also don't think it's offensive.
Right.
And I don't think that tribe feels it's offensive. I don't feel, obviously, this family doesn't feel it's offensive. But that, to me, is what I think is happening here. I think that goes back to the other larger question, which I don't know the answer to. Who owns that?
Yep.
Now, the team clearly owns it. The NFL clearly owns it. But did they receive any percentage of sales of merchandise with that logo on it? I don't know. Was it just gifted to the team and became IP of the NFL? Maybe. Was it gifted to the team with a caveat of we will cut a slice of whatever, benefits and money we make off of it in perpetuity to you?
Right.
Maybe. Well, that got shut off when the NFL shut this thing down. And to your point, there's 8 million Etsy shops that have that logo on items that are being sold now. As you pointed out, the money will always tell you where things are going to go. And if they ever did put this back on shirts, licensed products, I have a feeling a lot of Washington fans would buy it.
Of course.
It would never actually say Redskins on it, but they might buy hats and shirts and jerseys with that logo on it. Very possible. And so I don't know exactly what this is. I don't know exactly why this senator is so entrenched on this issue, because I don't understand that, other than he's speaking on behalf of a couple of constituents who seemingly want this to happen. And it was portrayed as you should do this to honor the legacy because it's the right thing to do. But is that really what was happening here? And I don't know.
Right.
And I'm also a cynic. And with a senator from Montana stumping for something that is valuable for some of his constituents, why is he doing that?
Right, exactly.
Why? You cannot force a private corporation to showcase a logo if they don't choose to. You don't. Plenty of companies have changed their logos through the years, never went back to it, and retired it. And nobody can make them go back to it again.
That's right.
You can't make Pepsi go back to its original logo.
Right.
So I'm not really sure what this is totally about, but I do have a cynic nerve being hit here going, this has got to be about money on some level, and I don't know what the relationship was, and maybe it could simply just be reasonable with us. If you're not going to use it, give it back to us. It's ours, and we would like to use the logo for our own purposes.
Right.
And you know what? I'll hear them a little bit on that. But I think my gut says that's at least a portion of what's going on here, that it's not just about we really had pride in that and we really want you to showcase it again. It is, you better, or we want it back.
That's right. To the point as well, we want it back because we're seeing all these entities you can't find because it's bots or whoever you want profit off of it.
Right.
And
but the bigger question was, were they ever making money on it? And that I don't know.
Right. But it could also
that I don't know.
But that's what I'm getting
remember,
at.
there was a major lawsuit with the Ravens where they initially had their first logo. There was somebody who created it and said, I want money for everything that's sold because you're using my logo. That's and the NFL goes, kick rocks, it's IP when we own it.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't pay anybody for this stuff. You gave it to us.
Right.
It's ours. Sorry. I live in media. Anything I do on these airwaves are not mine.
That's right.
They're owned by ESPN 630. That's it, period. Anytime I call one of their games, I don't have ownership of any of that. That's the team's.
Yep. Right.
So I don't know what the relationship is. Did they get a percentage of money from the team for the use of that logo, for sales of anything with that logo on it? Maybe, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. It's tough because clearly I think we're in a situation here, no matter what, they see that logo and they're going, you got to use it for something. You can't let that just die in perpetuity. Because, we've seen it before in the NFL. There are defunct logos all the time, but they make their way on a a homage brand T-shirt or a vintage type T-shirt or something like that, and they're going.
I could go on eBay right now and buy a million things with that logo.
Correct, and so I think what they're going as
there's a million stores on Etsy you could buy that logo. The NFL's got to try to shut them down, but good luck shutting them all down.
Right, no, because another one pops up every time. Another 5 pop up when you shut down one.
Yeah,
so
trust me, 8 million little stores popped up with that shirt Dan Quinn was wearing.
It was ridiculous.
Yes,
they set it up to reply to every single beat writer's tweets. Like it's ridiculous. Thanks, Elon, by the way, on that one. So I think they're saying, let us at least get some kind of regulation here and make some money off of it because everyone wants it. Everyone wants to buy the stuff with it. Let them have the option. I mean,
it's just everything gets done with a compromise and a deal.
Right.
I've lived here my whole life. I know how the real world works. And when he first started saying this, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
The senator from Montana has a vested interest in what happens with an old retired logo that was forced to be retired by the government and the corporations. Why do you care? Well, did these people, the family, come to him and say, there's a nice campaign contribution coming your way if you can get us that logo because we're going to monetize it as the owners of the IP?
Right.
I don't know. And again, I'm not accusing them of this, but something ain't adding up as to why he says, I won't give the RFK land to Washington, D.C. until I know what happens with that logo. And it better be profiled in your Hall of Fame or sitting at midfield, and it better honor Native American history, or I won't vote for this.
Right.
So what's going on? Like, who makes an organization do something like that?
Right.
To get land that, in my opinion, doesn't belong to the federal government, belongs to the District of Columbia to do what they want to do with no matter what. If they pass this legislation, it's not a guarantee a stadium is going there.
That's right. Exactly.
It probably will, but you don't actually know that. So how in the world are you forcing this to be the linchpin of whether you'd pass the legislation on?
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't. And if he came on this show, I'd ask some very pointed questions of him about it. And I'd want to hear what his answers are.
Yeah.
Does this mean that the answer is the team embraces it again in some way?
Yeah.
And has it up on the walls in the stadium, the new stadium, the current stadium, a Hall of Fame, the practice facility, and everybody says, you know what? It is not offensive. It is part of our history. People like it, and we're going to profile it again, and maybe they start selling merchandise again, and a portion of those proceeds go back to the Native American tribes as, thank you for this wonderful, iconic logo, and do it with what you want with that money. That's what I feel like is happening here. It's just a valuable property, and they're trying to figure out how to get it out from retirement.
Yes. And I would agree on that front, mainly because I've said this to you before. Like, they sell the vintage jerseys in the shop. They just don't sell Redskins. They don't say Redskins on them because the vintage ones actually never said it.
But they don't have that logo on it anymore.
No, of course. But but it's not on the jerseys. The jerseys are just the stripes.
Correct.
And so, but like I've been in the team store. It's like you can still buy an old Darryl Green jersey. They were all wearing it, during his little retirement thing. You can go in and buy a Rigo jersey or a Doug jersey, and that's where my whole philosophy came in of: are we inching up as close to the line as we can here? Because you didn't remove everything from the team store. You're still selling some of that stuff. Yeah. If that's the case,
the old jerseys with just the colors are not offensive.
No, of course. That's what I'm getting at. And that's what I'm getting at. The actual logo is not offensive. So maybe that's their whole
unless
thing.
You want to make a link to, everyone knows that's a Redskins jersey.
Right. I mean,
but
sure,
it's like,
but
all right.
Yeah, right. Whatever. I mean, it's
a Washington football jersey.
Yeah, right. Correct.
Do you want to pretend that they didn't play as the Redskins for 90 years?
You can actually, Mitchell & Ness sells Sean Taylor's jersey, and it says Redskins on the front. It still has the word mark. It does? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. I'm like 99% sure.
I'm shocked the NFL is letting them do that. Because I'm sure they made them take the word off the front of the jersey.
But that's Mitchell & Ness. Mitchell & Ness makes historically accurate jerseys. It's not about making a statement or whatever. It's if you want a jersey from Sean's last year in 2007, it has the 75th patch. Like it's very...
Yeah, I mean, it would be absolutely impossible to have an old Cleveland Indians jersey without the word Indians across the chest.
Correct.
Impossible.
Right, exactly.
But is Mitchell & Ness selling old Indians hats with the cartoon Indian on the front?
Looks like they don't have the word mark Redskins on it.
I'm sure the NFL made them take that. I'm sure they made them take it off.
Right. Yeah, it looks like that one.
Any new one. I mean, you can find the old ones, but there's no new one. There's nobody who's officially licensed with the NFL is allowed to put the word Redskins on anything.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not on there. My bad on that one. It just has it removed, but it's the same exact jersey. Like I'll turn it around for you. Those are all the same vintage jerseys all those guys wore. So there's just no word mark on any of them.
Correct.
As far as Cleveland goes, I can check for you real quick. But I mean, all I'm getting at is they sell vintage stuff already. If that logo isn't offensive, why wouldn't you let them use it at that point?
And I mean, there's a big part of me that goes, I hope the team does embrace that logo again.
Cleveland only has stuff with the C or the I.
That's right.
So there you go.
And I'm sure they don't have any hats with the cartoon Indian on it.
No, they stopped selling that 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the answer here? I think the answer is if this senator truly is this is not a threat, then I actually think the answer for the team is to embrace the logo again. Maybe not going to be on it's not going to be on the helmet. It's not going to be on the uniform. It's not going to be at midfield. It's not going to be prominently displayed during the games where you can see it. But in the bowels of the stadium, in the practice facility, maybe in a Hall of Fame, and then maybe in the merchandise shop, you can buy things with it.
Yep.
And the answer is anything that gets bought from here forward, a portion of the money goes to that family, their tribe, Native American causes, whatever it may be, and then we all just move on. Otherwise, what it sounds like is this senator is saying, if you don't do that, we want you to release the IP back to the family and the tribe for them to monetize as they see fit as their property. And the Commanders can't do that.
Yeah, of course not. No.
Because they also know it's valuable.
That's right.
Because it is.
Yes. And as I said, there could be a date later on where everything cools off a little bit.
Yeah.
And they might want to go back. Not go back to it, but do a throwback or something like that.
And one day, on Thanksgiving Day, the Washington, whatever their name is.
12 years from now.
Yeah, whatever their name is.
150th matchup.
Pull out an old school uniform that looks like the Redskins with that logo on the helmet.
Right.
And people are going to freak out.
Now, one thing I haven't.
And I'll get the tingles.
One thing I don't know is, the Native American logo was never on the jersey, but it was on that throwback jersey.
They put it on the throwback.
But it was a different version of it. I've never figured out.
I
Is that
don't
the
know.
same?
Was that the original throwback had a logo? I don't know.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
don't remember. I'd have to go back and look.
Is this the same?
Andy's going, I know the answer to that.
But you might not, though. Andy doesn't know uniforms. I think I know the uniforms better than he does.
Yeah, I remember RG3 wore a throwback once, and it had that on,
on
the sleeve.
They wore it 3 years ago or 4 years ago before they changed the name. So that's one thing I do wonder as well. That's the only time it was ever on a jersey. So is that the same drawing and then they modernized it, or are those two different versions too? Because that could be a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
They could go, we're going to sell this one, not that one.
Yeah, we'll see.
And then all of a sudden they're like, tough.
So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see if this threat is serious, but he said he's not going to pass this without something. So let's see what the deal is.
Yep.
Because some kind of deal is going to get cut. And my guess is they're not giving them the logo back.
No chance.
That the NFL is going to have to figure out a way to, I don't know, work it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah.